Is there no second dink?
Oh,
there's
the
second dink. Huzzah! We are live. Sorry, guys, we're kind of running late today because we had some fun technical issues, and as you can see, we're trying out my new camera in Witless's place and Manda's place because we wanted to see if the problems with the resolution that we've been having with this camera are exclusively my fault, like my connection. If there's something wrong in my software, we're not sure. But Manda is, we're trying to here to see if her connection's better, and we had some issues trying to set the whole thing, but we're fine, we're going now, and yeah, we're ready to go. So
we are ready to go. We'll wait a couple minutes for people to catch up here, yep. And if you're just joining us, welcome. There is a chat available, and you'll see it in the bottom third there, debsandarrow.com/chat. I see you. All right. So let's see. Let us know how the quality is, and let us know how the sound quality is. I have my microphone hooked up. If you can't see or hear us, please let us know. There is a chat, and we will see it. So Jen Sings is in the chat. So we have a full house tonight, which is awesome.
Manda looks sexy.
Manda has sexy hair tonight because
I'm so glad Errol isn't here for that comment.
I know, right?
He would jump on that.
He'd be like, oh! And then
yeah. Yes, he would be.
I straightened my hair, and it's like video game fight ready, you know?
You know, when you cut your hair, I really, really wanted to, visual is low is better than the past couple weeks, so it is a problem with my connection.
Oh.
Okay, so I guess we won't be recording at my place anymore. I'll just have to bring my camera.
Apologies, but there are fancy camera setups. You're going to see my bed this week. Not that
we're not used to the resolution of this camera, so it's like 3 times bigger for some reason.
So suddenly I was in a cathedral, and there's like 2 very tiny people sitting here.
It's a little jumpy.
It's a little jumpy.
That might be Manda's computer. We are having some issues. It wouldn't let us on for a little while.
Okay.
But we'll see. We're testing it. Always testing. Always trying to improve. Let's love your shirt.
Jen Sings says, "I love your shirt, Manda." I love it too. So let's begin officially. Welcome to 3 Geeks in a Pod. Once again, we're 2 Geeks in a Pod, and I think this is kind of going to be the pattern for a little while, just because.
Sometimes it might be 1 Geek in a Pod because unfortunately the next couple months, especially with NaNoWriMo coming up. And you guys have things in the works, and I've unfortunately got a lot of work going on, and as you guys know, a lot of ongoing health issues. So
we're gonna have guests. It's gonna be fun. It's just these next 2 months we realized everybody loves my hair.
Now, one thing I do want to mention is in about a month and a week, I think. We are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of 3 Geeks in a Pod. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to be the only one there for that.
I have a wedding that
I want to do something for it, and I need you guys. I need you guys to help me come up with an idea.
Yes.
My only really realistic idea right now would be doing Ghostbusters commentary. However, I don't want to do that by myself, so I need to find someone who can
get people to come in for that.
I don't know if there would be anybody who would have the expertise on Ghostbusters. Well, I mean, there's people who love it, but
yeah.
I think the only one I could think of who would be Kamal, and Kamal doesn't know me.
Is there anybody that has more expertise than you, though?
Oh yeah, there's
tons of people.
Yeah, not tons of people, but there are people. Dorkman Scott, who's on another podcast, and he's kind of famous on the internet. He's I bow at his Ghostbuster feet, but that's just an idea. I'm going to try and come up with other ideas, and I really want to mark this 1 year because not many podcasts make it to a year, let alone continue beyond that. And considering how much trouble we've had with scheduling and timing and everything, it's difficult to maintain something like this a lot of the time, and I'm really glad that we've gone this far. I really hope we continue in the future because I swear to God, this is one of my favorite things that I do.
The next couple of months are gonna be rough because we're all Nano's coming up too, and
I'm sure you guys are gonna be busy. I mean, once you get into Christmas too, it's kind of insane and nobody's around. And
so again,
it might be the new year before you see all 3 of us again.
Did we post this online? I don't think I did.
Post this online?
Oh wait, you did earlier, didn't you?
What, that we were, mentioned
broadcasting tonight?
Yes, I mentioned it several times. So.
Okay, awesome. Anyway, yes. So
and since we are running late, we'll go a few minutes.
We'll go a few minutes.
We usually do anyways, but we'll make it up.
So welcome for all of you newcomers. If there are newcomers out there, we are 3 Gigs in a Pod, a weekly podcast that discusses all sorts
everything
of
geeky that
things.
you can think of. We talk about video games, movies, comic books.
You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on
subscribe to
Twitter.
us on iTunes. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We do have an iTunes feed. I've been really bad about updating the audio podcast, which I know there's some fans who are kind of upset about that, but I'm working on it. Give me some time. I'm unfortunately very busy.
We're all pretty busy right now.
Yeah.
Usually, sometimes if there's news to talk about, I have some news to talk about.
Do you want to talk about news? Okay.
Yeah, we usually talk about that within the first 5 minutes or so.
Sure.
So I just want to talk a bit about. I did a fundraiser last night for
Yay!
Monkey Man Productions. And Debs and Arrow performed as well, and Kari Marin performed. And Kari Marin, I can't remember how to pronounce her last name.
Is Kari in the audience tonight?
I don't think she's in the audience tonight.
Oh, bummer.
A lot of people are, though. And it was tons of fun, and I got to perform a couple of Witless letters. Errol and I got to perform a sketch about Twilight vampires, and Errol was a vampire, and Errol was trying to be a sexy vampire. So you can imagine how that went, especially as he was on crutches most of the night. All of the night, I should say. And Errol on crutches is hilarious. And I got to remove a nail from a man's nose with my teeth. Yeah.
I'm really glad Errol's not here because he sort of jumped on that and twisted into some sort of thing.
He made me.
Oh, God.
It was like, there was this sideshow act. Okay, here's the sideshow act. There was, one of the acts was this guy who, set his tongue on fire and then, put it in a mousetrap and then, he had a...
What was this guy's name?
Devin Upham or something like that.
Is he from the troupe or something?
I have no idea.
I think I heard him on the radio last week.
Okay. He's the younger guy, but...
I don't know if it was him or another guy, but they were, this guy who I heard on the radio was a world record holder for the most mouse traps clamped onto his tongue in a minute.
Oh, I don't think this is that
something
guy.
like 78.
No. Anyway, his last little act was hammering a nail into his nose.
Yeah,
right?
That's an old trick.
It's an old trick, but
still, it's kind of
seen it. So we're watching him do it, and then he goes, "Okay, I need to take it out. So for this part, I'm going to need a volunteer from the audience." And then Errol, of course, screams out my name at the top of his lungs.
Man!
And it was Amanda! And then, of course, everybody else started shouting my name. And I'm basically shoved on stage. And I'm like, oh, my God, this is going to be so humiliating.
Errol is the worst peer pressure ever.
And so I go, and I was actually, we hadn't performed yet, and I was incredibly nervous because of that, too. And I'm like, I'm going to kill a man tonight. I'm going to, push him to pull it, and I'm going to get his brain or something like that. And so I was like, I reached my hand forward to take it out, and then he goes, no, I don't know where your hands have been, so you're going to have to do it with your teeth.
Because you know where your teeth have been.
You don't know where my mouth has been either. And at that point, I actually panicked, and I was like, I told him, flat out, I can't do this. Sorry. Wait, I'm really sorry. I can't.
Jesus.
And he goes, okay, you honestly can't? And I was like, no, I honestly can't. He goes, okay. But you're going to need to take this out right now, seriously. He's like, seriously, it has to be right now. And I was like, so I did it. And it was just I was terrified. I'm like, oh my God.
I know you said there was no video of any of this, but I really wish there had been video of that.
There's a photo of it somewhere. Someone has a photo of me taking it out. And, why haven't you killed him yet? I made him buy me a drink, actually. I went back to the table, you better buy me a drink. And he did. He was very nice about it. But he was also laughing a lot. So that's my news. And Monkey Man went well. And Nefarious, if you live in Toronto, the Nefarious Bed and Breakfast is opening in just under a month, I think. So,
wow.
Yeah. And they're rehearsing very hard for it. I'm going to be doing another promo vid for them.
Yeah.
And
we should have Deej and whoever else involved on to talk about it.
We should, actually.
That can be some of our guests.
That can be some of our guests.
We have so many plans for guests, but trying to coordinate with people and trying to coordinate with each other is hard enough. But we have so many ideas and so many things in store that we want to do, and it's oh, no video.
No video. No, she doesn't want to see him. So Jezebel, everybody in the chat is basically saying too much information and no video. Anyway, so...
Can I go on with something?
Yes, of course.
So, you guys know that I'm a huge Turtles fan. That's no surprise to anybody. And I'm not a huge gamer, but I was really kind of looking forward to a game that came out in August. Unfortunately, in the middle of my health issues. So by the time I got out and got my computer up and running and everything, I downloaded a game that I wanted to play called Turtles. Crap, I can't remember the name of it now. It's new. You can find it easily. And unfortunately, it hadn't gotten very good reviews, but I wanted to play it anyways because it's Turtles and it's always fun. And especially in franchises I enjoy that most other people don't, I can usually find something deeper to enjoy than other people. And I started playing it, and I really wanted to play it as a Let's Play.
Yeah.
Because I've been wanting to experiment with that. I've been watching a lot of those and figured, you know, it can be more content for the 3 Geeks YouTube page. And I started playing it figuring, okay, I'm just going to try and get the hang of this game, get the controls. 2 hours later, I was done. I had beaten the game.
That's pathetic. A 2-hour video game.
I wanted to put my fist through my monitor.
How much did you pay for it?
I think I paid $19.
That's way too much. 2-hour video game, $19?
There are other things you could do in the game.
Yeah.
Like there's an arcade mode, and you can go back and play it again.
Oh,
and
that's ridiculous.
You can fight your brothers in the dojo, and it's...
I want that story, man!
Exactly. That's why I play games, because I want the story. The other stuff is fun, peripheral stuff, but I want a decent story. And it's like, I don't understand why, game companies put out a game that's clearly unfinished, because, oh my god, was this thing glitchy.
Oh, yeah.
I'd get all these power-ups and collect all these things and save them because I figured the next level would be tougher, and I need them, and by the next level, I'd start the next level and all of them are gone. I'm like, so what was the point of me collecting them? Why didn't I just use them?
Oh, dear.
And then, like, my turtle would just disappear and I couldn't find him. I could move around the screen and I could hear him making the movements, but he'd be invisible. And then all of a sudden my turtles would be, like, inside of each other, and then...
We'll have to begin soon, before Lord Hair has to go soon.
Okay, but I wanted to rant about how frustrating this game is and how stupid it is that companies put out games that are clearly not ready to be put out. Clearly are problematic.
That's the problem with a lot of, what are they called? Games that are based on franchise games, like Turtles and like any movies or TV shows. The only successful ones I've seen, like the Back to the Future game was pretty cool.
I hated that. I wanted to love it so much.
Yeah.
But the conversation trees would drive me crazy, and I couldn't.
If you're not a fan of conversation trees, then,
no, it drove me so crazy. I'm like, I can't play this game.
See, I didn't mind that, and Walking Dead was a very good one as well.
But Walking Dead, I think, was more based on the book and was its own story.
Yeah.
That is another piece of news that came out this past week, that they are doing a second Walking Dead TV series with a completely new cast and a new storyline, based on the same universe. But a lot of people are kind of hoping that it's going to be an adaptation of the game story.
I introduced my sister to Heavy Rain. I started playing it with her. She's like, I gotta play more of this.
Yes,
but then in playing it, it's starting to show its age a bit. And it's like, ooh.
That's why I'm so looking forward to...
sequel?
No. Is there a sequel?
Oh, no. The other game they're making.
The one with Ellen Page, which I can't remember. Something Two Souls.
Oh, cool.
I can't remember what it's called. But anyways,
so let's get to talking about what we came here to talk about tonight.
If you guys haven't been living under a rock, you probably heard some of the hype and some of the conversation about a little TV series that premiered this week called Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which of course is a spin-off of Avengers. And it's an interesting TV series because it's not only is it a comic book adaptation, but it directly ties into the movie series,
franchise,
and it's going to continue to tie into it. I was reading something today where Greg Clark, I can't remember what his name is. The guy who plays Agent Coulson was saying that events from the series or characters from the series are going to kind of be a part of the next Captain America movie. Really? Yeah. So it's not just they're going to reference, like, if you saw the pilot, there was a lot of referencing and a lot of little, like, clips and flashbacks to the Avengers movie, which of course they have to put in because they're trying to remind you that this is part of the same world.
So what did you think of the pilot? Because I just watched it today. So.
Well, I'm iffy on the pilot.
Really? Me too. Wow, I thought this was going to be a...
No, I try to be fair with this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things I really enjoyed about the pilot. The geek side of me who loves the Marvel stuff just went ape crap about all the little references, bringing up Project Pegasus, which apparently nobody else knows what Project Pegasus is because I've explained so many times. Project Pegasus is basically, it's a mountain fortress that they built this fortress inside of a mountain to store all of the worst weapons that even S.H.I.E.L.D. can't, like, are even too dangerous for S.H.I.E.L.D. to use. Like, scary stuff. And I'm hoping that's going to be a storyline at some point because if anybody ever gets a hold of any one of these weapons, they're basically world destroyers. Like, that is, if Thor had not taken off with the cosmic... By the way, there are going to be spoilers, guys, for both this and Avengers. We can't avoid it because we kind of have to...
Well, we're going to talk about it for an hour.
Yeah,
we're going to
exactly.
but there's only so long we can talk around it.
Yeah. For instance, the Cosmic Cube would have gone, if S.H.I.E.L.D. had held on to the Cosmic Cube and Thor hadn't taken it at the end of Avengers, it would have gone into that place. Because it's just way too dangerous for anybody to possess.
Well, the thing about the show is I feel like we're not going to be spoiling much because for me... and it's
not much really happens.
Not much really happens, and it's a pilot episode, so... The thing is, this is television, right? And television, you have to make a bigger investment in it, right? You have to give it more of a chance, I feel like. With TV series...
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to throw everything out. You don't want to, like... You don't want to put all of your cards on the table in the first episode.
Yeah.
And you can already see within this episode that they're establishing certain things that they're going to be developing later on. There's certain relationships that we haven't explored yet, but we got hints about. There's certain... backstories that we've gotten hints at, but we haven't really gone into. There's a whole mystery with Coulson, who obviously died in Avengers and somehow is magically back, and they just keep referring to this magical place called Tahiti, which I have a feeling is not actually Tahiti. It's code word for something else.
That's right. Okay, so...
That was a recurring idea that...
Do you know what's sad? I actually forget enough of Avengers that I forgot that Agent Coulson.
Really? Because that was the big controversy, was everyone's like, how are they bringing him back? He died. He clearly died. Except that if you watch clearly in Avengers, you don't see him die. The only indication we have that he died was Fury's word, and if you know anything about Nick Fury, Fury's a notorious liar. If you know anything about
Samuel Jackson, he is... You will listen to me. No. You just listen to what Samuel Jackson says. If Samuel Jackson comes in and says, you're dead, well, then you believe him. And you're like, well, I better go then. Because it's Samuel Jackson. You always listen to Samuel Jackson.
Well, I mean, he's also the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., so when he says something, you kind of go with him. But that's the thing about his character is that he's known for...
Lying.
Like, even Tony Stark said it in the thing. Like, his secrets have secrets. Or his lies.
That's funny, though. Like, if people believed him, though, like, if Nick... He'd have to start telling other people to give the news then. Because if Nick Fury comes into a room after a while and says, like, so-and-so has died, everyone will be like, oh, Nick. And, you know, like...
Well, I think that's the thing, is that clearly certain people knew what really happened. The entire idea was that he told them that Coulson died to motivate the Avengers to take action, to do something, because they weren't coalescing as a team like they were supposed to. I think Tahiti was some sort of VR healing tech. Okay, remind me to come back to Tahiti and Coulson.
And just a quick little answer to Mercenary Pen's question. No, I haven't watched Legend of Korra Season 2 yet, because I haven't finished Season 1 yet, so I gotta do that. I know, I've heard not to... I've actually, from you and Leaf actually told me, don't bother. I'm like, okay.
It was fine up until the last 10 minutes of the
Christy says that her husband thinks that Coulson might be a clone.
He won't be a clone. If anything, he's going to be what they call an LMD, a life model decoy, which is a common thing for S.H.I.E.L.D. to use in the comics. When they send somebody into a dangerous situation, or...
oh, yeah, look at that.
LMD. Yep. Your dad's...
I
like your
awesome.
dad. LMDs are basically, if you're going into a dangerous situation and you're not sure if you're going to come out of it, high-ranking S.H.I.E.L.D. members will have basically it's a robot that looks and acts and sounds just like you. He's completely indistinguishable. And you send that person into a situation, and if they're killed, then they're killed. But What's different is usually you send in this decoy, and you stay back somewhere safe. However, the way they presented the mystery of Coulson is that he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know what really happened to him. So to me, that kind of implies that he may not. It may have been the real Coulson who died, and then who we're experiencing now may actually be the life model decoy that they activated afterwards with his memories because he may be too important an agent. I don't know. I don't know what the full story is.
Or is it maybe the LMD was in the movie?
Well, that would be the simple answer. But why does he not know what actually happened to him? Like there clearly something's going on with Coulson that they're not telling us, and obviously that's going to be one of the mysteries that are going to kind of unfurl throughout this season. I
completely missed that because there was a scene when they're saying the scene with Tahiti. Right, because they say it with such like.
Well, there was so much going on in that scene.
Maybe you can go to Tahiti. Yeah, maybe. And then he leaves and it's like clearly he does not remember what happens in Tahiti, and it's like, bum bum bum. I'm like, okay, but I thought because I'm an idiot, I thought that it was implied something had happened to her, Agent. Oh, I don't know her character name.
Colby Smulders?
Yeah, Colby Smulders.
Mariah Hill.
Okay, Mariah Hill. I thought something had happened to her. It's fun seeing her in another TV show.
I'm really glad they brought her back because I really like her character, and she got so shortchanged in the movie. Because her character is a really fascinating one when you know her history with Nick Fury. Basically, Nick Fury got into some unfortunate business and basically created he enacted a basically war crime.
Hang on. I seem to be having some technical difficulties. Are you guys having problems with the video in the broadcast? I hope not.
Frozen again.
Frozen again.
Me neither, not for me.
Okay, so something's. I think this camera is just too awesome for the internet.
I don't know what's going on.
This camera's amazing.
I should have kept my receipt.
No, it's a good camera. I love it. But it's we're gonna have to figure out.
We'll keep tinkering. I'm gonna try some different software and a different
Tahiti's
next week.
You know what? Tahiti is an acronym. I am so glad.
You know what? It might be actually.
Ja-Mez was saying something earlier because while we were having the technical difficulties, I had to keep retyping in S.H.I.E.L.D. over and over again because I was typing the name of this episode, and it only occurred to me later that maybe I should just copy the whole thing and paste it later, but I kept having to go S.H.I.E.L.D.
It's such an annoying acronym. Acronyms usually are, but it's
because it uses all the keys on the various ends of the keyboard, and then I was
you have to capitalize and then go over the period.
And Ja-Mez is saying, "Thank God it's a short word."
Yeah.
Because, if I had to do it for Tahiti, I'd be like, ah.
Or remember, that was one of my favorite jokes in the show. Was what does S.H.I.E.L.D. stand for, and what does it mean to you? Clearly, somebody wanted our name to spell S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, that was great. Actually, that was one of the great lines.
And that was one of the something I want to talk about today is that a lot of the criticisms that have come up, and some of them are just
bizarre,
bizarre and hilarious. But one of the ones I kept on hearing was the show's too jokey. There's too many jokes, too much humor.
I was talking to our mutual friend Deej today, and he was like, "It's too Joss Whedon-y." My argument is that there's never anything that's too Joss Whedon-y, but
there is if he is. I have problems with the way he develops his show sometimes, and some of his writing, but his humor is such an important part of his appeal and why I like watching Joss Whedon stuff that that was one of my favorite parts about it, and I hope they don't lose that. Especially since comic books tend to be rather jokey and rather sort of especially with certain superheroes, they never take it seriously. Like everybody loves Tony Stark because he's always sniping and cracking jokes, and
Tahiti is only one more letter than S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't care. That's
it's
one
still
more
one
letter
more.
too many.
Yes.
Actually, the same. Is it Tahiti? Oh man! Well, that just case in point. I would still not enjoy it. Oh,
But yeah, I
man.
find some of the criticisms of the show kind of weird. Like, there's some apt ones that there's an unfortunate moment where, okay, to set up for anyone who didn't watch it, basically what happens is we're in the world after the Battle of New York, which is what they're calling the Avengers movie, which is basically turned into their 9/11 and created an interesting world where. We know that superheroes exist. We know that there's heroes and there's monsters and there's all kinds of scary stuff out there. And S.H.I.E.L.D's whole purpose now is kind of shifting, but the public is kind of becoming more aware of these things, and it's a monumental shift in their understanding of the world. And S.H.I.E.L.D. is kind of trying to get ahead of that by creating a sort of task force led by Coulson, using various people that he's picked specifically. So you have a specialist who goes in and does, whatever job you need, no matter how dirty. He's good at all kinds of things, especially combat and survival and espionage. Then you've got a sort of retired
I can't remember anybody's name. Yeah, I just knew her as Asian girl in the show. It's really terrible. But
Agent May.
Agent May.
Who is... Apparently, she got kind of tired of doing all the field work and is retired to kind of doing like all the paperwork and desktop stuff. And, there's a great scene between her and him. Then there's two sort of tech people. There's one who's a biochemist and the other one who's an engineer.
And they're both British.
And,
I think.
He's Scottish. She is. I'm not sure which part of England she's from, but they're my favorite so far because they've got a great dynamic.
They've got a great rapport going on, but I kind of love it because I feel like techs in movies and TV either have to be Asian or British or just a big geek. I
always feel like they always have to be like super interesting and super kind of like they both
quirky.
seem very they're quirky. That's a good word for it.
They're my favorite characters so far, actually.
And then there's a new person who they brought in who isn't actually a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. but is such a good hacker and sort of so kind of
she's a sexy hacker.
She's a sexy hacker, but she's sort of she's one of those like rebel hackers, like what I would kind of what Anonymous would be.
Actually, to the show's credit, I'm kind of glad they pulled her in because I thought at first I'm like, okay, are they setting her up as one of like the extreme sort of antagonists of the show, and then they sort of pulled her in because I was actually getting a little sick of the monologues, like. You cannot stop the wind, or something like that. It was one of those...
rising tide.
The rising tide of the people.
Which is her sort of anonymous sort of organization, but it's just her running things from within. And Coulson brings her in because she clearly knows more than they do. She's able to find things out that they can't, and she's able to hack S.H.I.E.L.D., so clearly she's an asset.
Yeah.
So he's brought her in to help stuff, but to give her trust, there's a great scene where... they have her in an interrogation room, and they're kind of getting set up to interrogate her. That's what the big muscly guy thinks he's going to do. And there's a great line where he goes, "There's two ways we can do it." And she goes, "Is one of them the easy way?" And he's like, "No."
I didn't.
I love those jokes.
See, I enjoy that kind of humor. And I like those kinds of jokes, and I feel like this one was actually pulling back a bit for me on the Joss Whedon humor. Like, there wasn't nearly as much of it,
I think there was a good balance. Like,
there's a good balance, I think.
People who have complained about it mostly say that it's not taking things seriously. And I think in the moments where there were serious moments, it was taking it seriously.
Yeah.
What's his name? His monologue at the end about how to be... Like, the exchange between Coulson and the hero of the story. Their exchange at the end was very emotionally driven.
Yeah, that was a very serious one.
It wasn't very jokey.
No, it wasn't jokey. I did find it... Okay. I found the monologue at the end given by the hero dude. So there's this, for those of you who haven't seen it, this episode focuses on this guy who has a superpower, right? He's
got a scientifically augmented
he's
ability.
had some...
Basically, if you've seen Iron Man 3, the Extremist project has basically been stolen and hit the street with a slight augmentation. And he has that.
So he's basically been tested on and gotten this device that gives him superpowers. Like, he has, like, super strength kind of thing. And so he gives this big speech at the end, and all throughout the episode, they're showing him he's poor, he's out of a job, he's got a kid to take care of, he's about to get vacated from his apartment. His wife has left him. He's like in the bottom, in the downing dumpy
He goes
place.
to beg for his job back, and they basically try and throw him out. And he's at his lowest point, and Sky kind of talks to him at one point and says to him, you know, you could be more than you are. You could be a hero.
Yeah.
You need to get ahead of S.H.I.E.L.D. and like they're the big scary entity that could bury you. But if you get ahead of this and get into the public eye, you could really make a difference. And that kind of goes to his head. Yeah. And he starts thinking that because he could be a hero, he's kind of owed something, and he kind of goes off the rails. And there's an exchange at the end after a big battle where he and Coulson are talking to each other, and he's kind of saying, you know, I have potential. I could be somebody. I could do something. And Coulson's trying to tell him, yeah, you could, but you got to kind of, played by Gunn from Angel, if anyone, J. Michael Richards, I think his name is, if anyone's familiar with him. And a lot of people kind of had issue with the performance there. I didn't. I thought it was pretty good.
It wasn't the performance, it was the actual speech for me.
Was it?
It was a bit too hammer over the head with the message. The message was basically, and it's one that's been cropping up in our society lately, which is we've been raised with the idea that if you work hard and you are a good person, then good things will come to you. And that's not always the reality. A lot of good people get kicked around, and they often end up poor. And so he's basically giving this speech, which is like, government, you have let me down. You have let the man down, and you stomp on the little people and stuff. And it just felt a little too, like, because it was a metaphor, because he was actually also talking about when the Avengers came in and kind of destroyed New York and whatnot. But... you know, it was like, you bring in these gods and they just stomp on us and you don't care. And it was like, the gods are the government, and you know, and it was just a little too heavy-handed. So
I didn't find it to be so, but I guess I don't know. I'm looking for something different from the show. One of the issues I did have with the show is that I guess I'm kind of spoiled by cable TV. And the level of writing and production value and the look and design of these shows, like Mad Men, like Walking Dead, like Game of Thrones, where they look cinematic. They look like movies on a weekly basis. And unfortunately, a lot of this, I'm going to give it a pass because it's the pilot, and they probably didn't have the budget they're going to have for the rest of the series, because this is probably how they were trying to sell the show. But it really felt very network TV, and not even like modern network TV, because network TV is kind of catching up to cable TV. It looked like network TV from like 10 or 15 years ago. Like, I saw the opening of that was shot on the same lot as Lois and Clark. And it looked like it. And
we should have Lois and Clark.
And I don't want to nitpick on the production, because I know, especially with pilots, they aren't investing a lot of money into a pilot because they don't know if it's going to go anywhere.
This is the thing. It's a television. I'm interested to see, because unfortunately, I don't. Where is this being aired? What network?
ABC.
Okay, it's not Fox.
Which is owned by Disney. No.
Yeah. Okay.
That was another comment I saw where someone was like, "I don't know why they went to ABC. ABC has a history of canceling all the good shows."
Really? I'm like, Fox.
That's Fox. What are you talking about?
Fox and NBC are NBC's catching up to Fox as.
The only shows I watch on NBC are, although I guess the two shows that I do watch. Yeah. One of them was on the bubble almost every year, and another one is still kind of on the bubble. Okay,
so quick question for the chat, just to keep on tech things. So sometimes the video cuts out, but you can still hear us. Quick answer. We're going to go on with the discussion, but I'm just curious, like if it's the too awesome for this computer webcam. I'm sure there are settings I can fiddle with and stuff to make it optimal. I've exited everything, I think. Anyway, back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The one thing with the pilot, though, and pilots are important because it has to lay a lot of foundation work, and it has to.
And I feel like it did do that, but the problem is, my problem with it. Sorry, I totally interrupted you.
No. I was just saying, Mercenary Pen brought it up earlier, and this was a big thing with me, which is like, it's kind of telling that I can't remember quite a few of the main characters' names.
That is something I wanted to get into. Yeah. My problem is that because they're trying to set up so much, and because they're trying so hard to bridge a gap between a series we're familiar with into a series I feel is going to be a little bit different from the Avengers.
Yeah.
They're trying to do a lot, and they're not getting a lot accomplished. And unfortunately, because they're going from a superhero world to what I feel is not going to be as superheroic, because they filled their cast with ordinary humans.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling a lot of the threats they're going to be facing just for budgetary purposes are going to be very human.
Right.
Unfortunately, I have a feeling that I don't have a feeling. I witnessed it. It doesn't really have.
So I'm going to bring up that question for the chat again because I don't know if it froze or anything. When it cuts out, does just the video cut out, or does both the video and the audio cut out?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very important question for me to know. So please answer it as best you can. Anyway.
I'm trying to remember what I was.
Sorry.
At all point I was no, because I started to lose my point too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the show was trying to do too much and not accomplishing everything it was trying to do, and getting too lost in trying to set up things without actually dealing with those things and getting them built up enough. Like, there's a good cast of characters here. I think there's enough of a foundation that we can go in an interesting direction, but I don't feel like I know them well. And that was one of my chief complaints, is that I've learned their names because I've looked them up on Wikipedia or I've watched it a couple times, but I don't feel like I know any of them. Yes, we have the quirky researchers. Yes, we have the Skye, who had the most screen time of any of the cast, well, except for Coulson. But I feel like she's going to be kind of a main player because she is the civilian of the group. She's not the trained agent. She has some expertise, but she's not as battle-hardened, I guess. I don't know what the term would be, but she's not as prepared for the world she's going to step into. So I feel like she is kind of our proxy into this story.
Yeah.
So they're kind of focusing on her a little bit more, but it still feels like, especially the two quieter agents, the two more professional agents, we get the idea that Agent May is a badass, but we haven't really gotten into that too much, and the other guy's kind of trigger-happy and a little too gung-ho to get there and punch people, but I mean, that's his training, so I understand that they're trying to tell a lot at once and trying to get things set up, but it still feels like you could have gotten a little more into that.
The thing is, even though it's a pilot, even though like it's just introducing, those introductions are so important to grab people back.
One of my favorite pilots of all time is Lost.
Yeah.
And it did a wonderful job of establishing their situation, their world, the danger they're facing, and a good number of the characters without going very deep into the characters.
Yeah.
But we got to know enough about each of them to kind of understand who they were, or at least kind of become interested in most of them.
Yeah.
And I really want to, like, there's a lot of stuff about the show I really enjoy, but all the stuff I enjoy is very superficial, and I feel like there's not enough.
More of me is saying, I'll try and give it a chance than it is.
That's not even what I'm saying, and even though I'm being very critical, I'm just trying to hit on the criticisms because I think they're important things that the series needs to address. I think there's a lot of really good stuff here. There's a good balance between, referencing the cinematic world, referencing stuff from the actual comics that haven't come up in the cinematic world, which is actually something that I'm really kind of looking forward to, because I think this show has a potential to touch upon a lot of Marvel Universe stuff that hasn't ever been adapted to TV or film, that won't be in the films because it's not interesting enough to be...
I think, sorry, I'm looking at Jezebel's chat there. She says, Lost had a great pilot, but I've got fed up by season 3. Agreed. Jezebel, I watched it all the way through, but you had to get through that season 3. That was a pretty not good season.
I didn't mind it. I don't know whether... Season 5 I found a little problematic, but because it kind of changed direction a little bit, but I still I was involved enough with the characters that I didn't care about the story, I cared about their stories. And that was my thing, especially with the ending of Lost, which a lot of people had a problem with. To me, that was one of the great things about the ending of Lost, was it wasn't about the mystery or the story, it was about them and the journey they were going on. And I think they veered nicely in the 4th and 5th seasons, telling their stories rather than telling these stories. But that's
what I was like, Ron Glass is
It was nice to see him back.
It took me a moment. I was just sitting there, I was like, so familiar about him, and even though it's like so freaking obvious, like
there's been a lot of jokes about him this week that this is actually a precursor to Shepard book. This is the past that he won't speak about, the whole connection that he has.
He traveled forward in time.
Maybe he's ageless. Maybe he's an LMD.
Hey, yeah.
He's lasted from Earth that was.
My gosh,
and he's got connections
that could
through
be like
time.
A whole. Whoa, we should write a fan fiction about that.
I'm sure someone has.
I'm sure someone
At some point, someone has.
Well, this
Are
is
you
like...
kidding me? I saw fan fictions going out while the show was airing.
Really?
I'm like, you don't know who these characters are. How are you writing fan fictions for them?
That's pretty ridiculous, actually. So I don't know. Like I'm coming at it. The other sort of. I mean, it is sort of one of those blessing and curse situations where it's really cool what Marvel is doing. This whole world that they're building.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I was sitting there and thinking, if you hadn't seen the Avengers movie, there are certain things they keep.
That is a criticism that they keep. I've heard that it doesn't stand alone.
It doesn't stand alone, and it does have to, unfortunately.
However, I would say that each of the movies had 2 hours to kind of tell their story, and they told a complete story. Whereas this isn't really. It has told a complete story, but it's not telling all of the story. So give it a couple episodes before you kind of.
Well, yeah, but I'm more talking about when they refer back, when they say New York's been destroyed and stuff, and if this were a regular TV show without the movies to back it up, you would think that them sort of hinting at this destruction of New York would be explained in future episodes.
Well,
however,
think of it more of a spin-off. Like Angel kept on referring to things in Buffy without actually being a part of Buffy.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So it requires you to have knowledge of a different thing, but it's the third most popular thing of all time.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's a lack of people who've seen the thing, and it does kind of require that. Yes, you know what happened in Avengers, but. Yeah. I don't think there's much of a chance that people don't know what happened. If they don't, it's kind of their own fault for not.
Yeah, someone said this is actually a little bit of a complaint from me too, which is that Sky explained more to them than they to her. I'm like, right now, as much as S.H.I.E.L.D. is like supposed to be this super high tech, high government kind of place, they sure don't know a lot.
No, but that was the point. Is that's why Coulson was collecting her, was because she figured out stuff they hadn't.
Do you know what I think? I think it would have been great that it would have stood alone of her hacking into S.H.I.E.L.D. That would have been enough for them to be like...
She did several times in the episode.
I don't know, but that would have been enough without her being like, what, you don't know about Centipede? I know about Centipede. Do you know about Centipede? And then...
But I like that. I like that there's a character out there who... I mean, we know that S.H.I.E.L.D. knows everything. We know that they don't know everything. Obviously, they don't know everything.
Yeah.
They can't know as much as they want to know stuff. There's just all kinds of stuff out there. But I like that there's a character that's actually, 1 or 2 steps ahead of them.
Well,
It may just be that she stumbled across information that they hadn't, but she doesn't know everything they don't.
She didn't tell them how she came across the information, which was like some guy tweeted, like, just went to the Centipede labs. LOL. That's one thing that is to the show's credit, like structurally, is that it gives you a character like
to latch onto,
to give you an in, right? Same with Firefly. It was the Simon Tam was kind of the character who was new to all of this. And
I was thinking about X-Men because I was going to talk. There's another topic we're going to talk about in a couple of weeks: the importance of characters to story.
Right.
And I was thinking about X-Men the other week and how it kind of ushers you into this world through the eyes of Rogue and Wolverine, and it's a great way to kind of get you into, especially a strange world, where they have to establish a lot of things, and it avoids a very terrible writing cliche called the "as you know" scene, where 2 characters, in order to explain exposition to the audience, are telling each other something that they already know, and it comes off as a very ham-fisted and very superficial sort of inauthentic sort of exchange. Whereas this is, all kinds of people who know things explaining it to other people who know things, but they don't know the same things. So it works, and it gives us the information that we need without, like, if somebody was trying to explain something to S.H.I.E.L.D., it's like, yeah, we know that.
Now that being said, like, it's also a really interesting concept just the idea of, because you know the thing is in every superhero movie, it's always dealing with the superheroes are super secret, right? Mm-hmm. Or the government they work for the government and they work covert.
Except clearly nothing in this Marvel universe has been secret because Hulk destroyed New York once and twice now. When don't I think about X-Men? When I'm thinking about Spider-Man and Ninja Turtles. Come on, Ghostbusters. And Ghostbusters. Crap, completely lost my train of thought.
No, you're talking about the destruction and stuff.
I mean, with the exception of Captain America, who in the modern age hadn't been really revealed, but I mean, he was a poster boy for the war in the Second World War, and Iron Man revealed himself over, the news.
Yeah,
it's
so this
clearly when he stopped thinking about Spider-Man. There we go.
Ghostbusters. They're gonna catch up to us. Lag, I love you so.
Oh, Jesus.
So, but it's an interesting concept. It's like, what exactly happens after all of this has been revealed? After it's clear that you can't really keep these things secret anymore because the city has been destroyed multiple times. So it's kind of interesting. Like, I think it's an interesting concept. I'm going to be interested to see how Joss Whedon pulls it off. I like the idea that suddenly this really dangerous technology is being used by, anyone and everyone could use it.
And that's a fascinating thing about the situation is that, and I read this in someone's blog when I was trying to look up information tonight to see if there were any really good criticisms about the show, and I couldn't find many. There was a lot of really bad ones, a lot of really hilarious ones. I should read one of them to you because I was crying laughing at it. We have a situation here it's a great kind of trope in superhero stuff that once you introduce the hero, eventually there's going to be a villain who's kind of inspired to counter. Not inspired, but there's that idea of escalation that they talk about with police. We buy better guns, we buy armor, they buy better guns, we get SWAT and better vehicles, they buy armor piercing round, that kind of thing where every time the good guys try and do something, the bad guys are obviously one step ahead of them. And we've now seen that there's this crazy incident in New York where a giant green guy is throwing aliens into buildings and the man in the iron suit is flying around disposing of a nuclear device in this portal to space.
Yeah. And
crazy space whales are crashing into buildings. Clearly, there's dangerous stuff out there, and Asgardian gods walk the earth now. And all the crazy, like we saw it in this episode, all the crazies out there are going to be trying to protect their own little corner of their world by stealing, augmenting, or developing their own weapons. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of really interesting villains kind of popping up. Obviously, it's not going to be like main villains. Like it's not going to be Ultron and Thanos and stuff like that. Like they're going to be off to the movies respectively because they're the big villains. But I think we're going to get guys like the Tinker, like we're going to be seeing probably a lot of Latvian stuff, a lot of AIM again, who was referenced in Iron Man 3, and Hydra, who was in Captain America. And I'm talking a lot of gobbledygook that you probably have no interest in. Okay. I think there's a lot of potential to develop a lot of really interesting Marvel stuff in here that, again, isn't going to be coming up in the movies because these characters aren't interesting enough to hold a movie unto themselves or be a part of the movie, but they can carry an episode, or they can be an ongoing thread or something, or we can get all kinds of great references. So there's potential here to explore stuff in the Marvel Universe that doesn't get to...
Actually, I will say this. One of the things that I thought that this show did a bit better was that introduction as the any man can be a hero type of thing, which is, I think, the television show, which started out well enough, but went to terrible places, which was Heroes. Did you ever watch that show?
Heroes?
Yeah.
I watched the first 2.5 seasons. I got so mad at the second season.
Yeah,
I kind of hung on during the third season, but once I got to the third season break, I'm like, this is
actually, I think we went the same route because I watched the first season.
The first 8 episodes were kind of rough.
Yeah.
But once they got to about the mid-season point, on to the maybe the last 10 minutes of the pilot were a little dumb, or the last episode were kind of dumb, but it was a great roller coaster from about midway on, and it was one of my favorite series at that point. But
So Laura Hare brings up a point to an earlier point about the escalation trope, which was she brings up why did the Power Rangers ever just get out the Megazord to begin with? And it's true.
Because they've only got so many cardboard buildings they can knock over. Come on, you got to say that for the last 10 minutes. It's the same reason why in the Incredible Hulk TV series, the Hulk only came in at the beginning, at the end of the series, and the rest was him as a human trying to deal with stuff because it's expensive. The green paint's expensive. You can't have him flip a car every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is actually, that's something else I wanted to bring up, is that if you had to ask, like, Marvel doesn't have a great history with TV. We have the Incredible Hulk, which ran for several seasons in the 70s and 80s, and that was huge. You had a really bad Spider-Man TV series, which lasted a season. I'm talking about live-action Marvel, because there's been a lot of really good animated Marvel, but live-action Marvel has not done very well. There was a Blade series, which wasn't great. There's been a lot of like crappy TV movies. David Hasselhoff, it's Nick Fury, and Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D, which was terrible. There was a Generation X movie, a Fantastic Four movie. All of these terrible things that, you know, no one ever saw again. Yeah. And then there was like a really kind of mediocre X-Men spin-off that wasn't X-Men called Mutant X, which this is the first time that we've had, since Incredible Hulk, that we've had an actual Marvel series based on an actual Marvel property or Marvel idea that connects to the Marvel Universe somehow. And has the potential to be a really good Marvel TV series.
Has the potential. The thing is, with the pilot, unfortunately, I was thinking through most of it, like, sort of like, wasn't bad, but it wasn't anything.
It didn't blow me away, but I think there's potential, and I'm willing to hold on. I'm willing to stay with it for a while
to see where it goes. Like, unfortunately, because like there is that thing, because it's tied so closely with the movies and such, they're going to have a bit of a harder time winning over an audience who haven't seen the movies. But then again, if you're not interested in superheroes, you're not going to watch this anyway, right?
That's another thing I wanted to address, is that I don't think it's going to be about superheroes. Obviously, they live in a world where superheroes exist, so it's going to be a part of it at some point.
Yeah.
But you can't, especially on the budget they're at, you can't maintain. I mean, you can if you're doing Smallville, where he only breaks out the superpowers every once in a while, and most of it's about the character, or Arrow, where, you know, it's about a bow and arrow. But I don't think, especially with the way they've established it.
Oh my gosh, I want to see that show now. I haven't actually seen Arrow, but I just want to see the show about a bow and arrow. Just
bouncing around.
Just the arrow. sitting in this case, being like, today's the day, man.
I can see that as like a Phineas and Ferb kind of like spoof of the show or something. But I think the way they've set up the show to be, first of all, it's an entirely human cast. There's no superhumans.
Haven't you watched the pilot now?
It is online if you want to go watch it.
I think
online. It's at abc.com.
If you're in Canada, you can actually. I saw it on CTV.
Okay.
If you're in the States, I'm sure you can see it at abc.com. They have it on there, luckily, so you don't have to go searching far and wide for a streaming program that's going to download viruses to your computer or anything. So that's nice.
Yeah, Mercenary Pen, I agree. Marvel does animation better because you can do the kind of crazier, like Galactus is kind of an easier idea to do in animation, and the crazy special effects. However, that's part of what I'm trying to say with S.H.I.E.L.D. is I don't think it's going to be the effects-laden superhero show that most people are expecting it to be. They've established it as a very human cast. There's no real superpowers on the team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, clearly, if they're going to do superpowered series, they'd have at least one superhuman on the team. I'm sure S.H.I.E.L.D. has somebody in the roster somewhere.
They have someone that they've locked up down there, because all they said was like, have, at the end, they get open. At the end, they're like, we have the subject that he's in. What did they do to him at the end? I think I had to go to the bathroom at some point. And I
don't think they explained that, but I'm sure he's in some sort of lockup. S.H.I.E.L.D. does have.
No. What they shot him with?
Oh, the night gun. Oh. Remember when they were getting on the plane? They were arguing over the night gun. And they're like, that's a terrible name for it. They were establishing it then. Because if you actually watch it again, he had an actual real gun that he was going to shoot him with.
Yeah.
And you heard the bang and you saw him go down, you're like, oh my god, he shot him. And then you just see the blue dots, and the veins the blue dot going into the veins, and the red kind of dissipating from his face, and it pans back up to him, the shooter on the balcony, and he's got a different gun in his arms, and it's the Scottish or Irish guy, I don't know what nationality it is. The British tech guy is had just given him the night gun.
Okay.
I missed that
Because I saw everybody
time,
like smiling at each other, like, "Good job, man!"
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
It's okay, I'll be good. Bang.
I was puttering around the house while I was watching it, so I'm like, I know I missed.
No, I missed that
important.
the first time too, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's, it's detail that.
But see, it's like little things like that. Like I enjoy that kind of humor when they call it the night gun and stuff, or like.
But I like that not only does he call it that, but the girl calls it and says, "You're not calling it that. That's a terrible name." Because it is clearly a terrible name, but it establishes what the gun does in one simple phrase. And I love that they set it up and they paid it off. It wasn't just a throwaway gag at the beginning. It was clearly a setup to something at the end.
Now, I think this show probably will struggle a bit with the networks. Networks are very tough to please, as I've been seeing, like especially with Joss Whedon shows.
Yeah, but I think the fact that you've got Marvel Studios behind this and you've got Disney, who paid a buttload of money to get the Avengers, are really going to be behind this.
Yeah.
And Disney owns
but
ABC, so I think they're going to be pushing it more.
It's ratings that often speak, and the problem with television
is
that you often have to give it 2 seasons before you know whether you should cancel it.
But I think we can consider Avengers kind of the first, not in terms of ratings, but in terms of story. So we're kind of getting into the second, or at least a spin-off of the series. So there's a little bit more of a fan basis for this than a regular series that you're just kind of going into blind.
Yeah.
Like when you started watching Lost or Heroes or something, where you only really have the first season to get them going, and some series don't even get that. Firefly. But unlike those series, we already have a built-in audience. We already have people who are not just comic book fans, but Avengers fans. So.
But you're going to inevitably also get the Avengers fans who are disappointed by the pilot.
Oh yeah, that was most of the people who I saw who were disappointed by it. This isn't Avengers, but it's not going to be Avengers. S.H.I.E.L.D. was never Avengers. S.H.I.E.L.D. was basically James Bond in a superhero world.
This is the thing. It's not Avengers, and it's not.
And that's what I keep saying about the humans, is that it's going to be about human threats. It's going to be about human situations. Yeah. Obviously, there's going to be like superhuman aspects to it, or techie sci-fi stuff, because it's very James Bond oriented. But it's not going to be Thor coming in every week to smash things with his hammer.
Why not?
It's not going to be about fighting the Hulk every week. It's going to be, or whatever the equivalent is. Clearly, they're.
Do you think they'll have any sort of cameos from the Avengers cast eventually, if it takes off?
At the very least, they'll have. I'm sure they'll have Mark Ruffalo at some point, or the S.H.I.E.L.D's coming to us because we're criticizing it. So
siren! Oh my gosh, that's this good microphone we have there. That's actually, I'm on the 12th floor of my apartment building, so.
And those sirens are way out there in the city.
They're way out there. I heard them too, but I thought
one criticism I heard, which I actually thought was kind of amusing, but. I do want to kind of tackle on the head is that
I don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, let's not pay attention to the chat right now.
One of the criticisms I saw was that the same thing happened with Torchwood, where they marked all their vehicles with their logo or their name or something, and it's like, you are a deep government organization based on secrecy, and you're driving out in public spaces with vehicles clearly marked with your symbol. But
at the end of...
we are in a post-Avengers world, and S.H.I.E.L.D. is clearly trying to, create a public face.
Now tell me...
The CIA, we know, is a very secret organization, but we still know where their base is. We still know that the organization exists. So
do we know if they have flying cars?
A lot of people have problems with the flying car. I love the flying car for one specific purpose.
Did you tell me if you were thinking the same quote that I was?
Oh, we don't need roads?
We're going, we don't need roads.
That didn't occur to me, but that's obvious. Yes, that is a good reference. No, what we've got... I had a friend who complained to me. She's like, it's so cheesy. I'm like, what's so cheesy about it? They had a flying car. I'm like, do you not understand how awesome that is?
It wasn't...
Not just because it's a flying car. It's a perfect throwback to the comics where, again, this... S.H.I.E.L.D. was a very James Bond kind of comic. It was about gadgets. It was about espionage. It was about, the Black Ops kind of thing. And there was ridiculous moments like flying cars and all kinds of weird technology. And I love the fact that it's clearly Joss is doing a tongue-in-cheek thing where, yes, we're doing a serious story, but at the same time, this is a ridiculous comic book we're adapting.
It wasn't the car itself that got me. I was like, cool, flying car and stuff. It was the... Because come on. They're like, there's a flying car. I'm like, there's also a freaking fortress in the sky. Okay? I can accept.
To be fair, the helicarrier at least had like cloaking device kind of thing.
That had a cloaking device. Anyway, I was like, you can accept. It was the fact that they were still trying to remain somewhat secret, and
but they've got a plane that they're flying with their logo on the top of it, and it's like. But I mean, clearly they're not as. There is still secrets to it, but it's not entirely secret anymore. I guess they're trying to create a public face.
Laura Harris mentioning that she was disappointed in the super that they brought out, the super guy.
Yeah, I don't think that he was necessary. He was brought in to kind of. I think he was more kind of.
I don't think he was developed enough.
Well, I don't. The purpose of him wasn't to develop a character.
No, it was no.
The purpose of him was to establish that yes, this is going to involve superhero stuff. This is going to tie into stuff from previous movies because he was superpowered by Extremis, which is from Iron Man 3 once again, and to establish that there are threats out there. There are real situations that they have to deal with, even in New York. And unfortunately, yes, he wasn't developed enough. I do think that there was some interesting stuff about his character, establishing how hard he'd had it, and that he couldn't even get a job. He had a son that. Clearly didn't, have any respect or admiration for his dad, and yada yada yada. But I like the spiel at the end because it's typical Marvel. It's it's the great power and great responsibility shit.
Did you like that they poked fun at that line?
For a second there, I'm like, they can't use that line.
Great power. That's not their line. A whole bunch of crap you can't deal with.
But it's typical Jaw stuff where he's taking something you expect and. With great power comes a whole lot of...
Jen Singh says, my kid wants to build the first real flying car.
Unfortunately,
awesome.
Flying cars actually exist, guys.
Do they actually exist?
They've had flying cars
for
like
Mercenary Gun just said that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, but they aren't commercialized. That's the thing. And they're not, they're not even a reasonable sort of... No, it's...
Is it not an efficient sort of car?
Have you seen the Clerks bit about... No, it's not an efficient car.
Okay.
Have you seen the Clerks shtick about the flying car?
No.
Look up Clerks flying car on YouTube.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor and see that. It's gold.
Okay. Then you also... sorry, I'm looking at a question here.
No, it was inspired by... did he have stuff? No, I think it was Extremis, and they were trying to emulate Erskine's... Erskine being the doctor who developed the super soldier formula. I think they were trying to emulate that, but that's the thing in the Marvel universe now, especially the Ultimate universe, is that everything kind of ties back to Captain America because he was basically the first real sort of super. I mean, there were other superhumans, but he was the first sort of public super human.
How long before Ja-Mez complains about, or before people complain about the lack of the Spider-Man cameo?
You'll never hear me complain about the lack of Spider-Man cameo because Spider-Man should not be in Avengers.
There you go.
But there are plenty of other characters that they can develop, like Daredevil, like Luke Cage, like the Heroes for Hire, like Doctor Strange, who I have a feeling is the magical aspect to keep referring to in Tahiti, but we'll see.
Tahiti. I want to know what Tahiti is. Now,
I do too.
In terms of the pilot, the thing that bothered me most was that most of the characters, to me, other than the scientists, other than the lab techs, were just sort of blah.
I like Skye. I like Coulson. I think there's potential for May. The only one that didn't really kind of click with me was the brutish sort of...
Ward?
Ward, yeah.
The guy that shot the blue thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, and that, I fully admit that might just be me because I don't like that kind of character. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like to see that character kind of get punched around a little bit.
I don't like that character, although I kind of like that character.
I see potential in the rest of them, especially Skye.
Okay.
And
here was sorry, this is another nit. This is a lot of nitpicks.
No, go for it.
This isn't like a terrible.
No media should be free from criticism.
So this was a nitpick. So they go up to this Ward guy. Agent Coulson goes up to this brutish guy, and he asks him you're gonna be assigned to this new case or whatever, right? They're gonna have to go and find out this new superhero. And this other agent, Agent Ward, is a man who he only does, like, diffuses bombs and stuff, right? Or, like, he's only part of the bomb squad. He's like, why do you want me to be on it? He's like, well, because. He's like, no, I don't want to do this. If you need a guy to, like, defuse a nuke, I can do that. Just don't ask me to go out and find some superhero dude and stuff.
But they call it back later on.
But they call back later on because then they're interrogating somebody, and this Agent Ward guy completely mucks up the interrogation, and he walks out, and he's like, excuse me, do you want so badly out of this? Like, yes, he does. He's not up to. He's like, are you not up to this task? And he's getting angry at him, and I'm like, no, he's not up to this task. He established that early on in the episode.
No, clearly he wants out of it, but I think what he was doing was, Ward is a very, not an egotistical kind of guy, but he's very sort of, I don't want to say macho, but clearly if you poke his ego, he's going to kind of retaliate and, yeah, this isn't something you can do, and you're not man enough for this, and you poke the bear enough, the bear's going to turn around and do what you want him to.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? A Spider-Man cameo would be good for the, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Doesn't have to be him appearing, or, like...
If it was just him swinging by...
If you just saw him, if it was
that would be
really
fine. I would be okay with that. If you saw, like, a Daily Bugle newspaper on the street corner or something as you're passing the street box, that's fine. I just don't want to see Spider-Man as a character on the Avengers.
Yeah.
That drives me crazy when people are like, Spider-Man should be in the Avengers. Spider-Man is a solo act. He should never be in the Avengers.
It's just because he's in the Marvel universe that people...
And you know what? Clearly there's the legality of they don't own Spider-Man, so they can't do that.
Oh.
But that's the main reason he's not going to be in it. Same reason the Fantastic Four are not going to be in it. Same reason the X-Men are not going to be in it. However, they do own Daredevil now. They do own Punisher, so those characters can be referenced or brought up. That's what I'm kind of looking forward to. Yes, Jezebel, they could do better with Daredevil. Daredevil is actually a character with a lot of potential. A lot of potential and a lot of really kind of interesting stories and ideas. And I don't think he's going to kind of carry a movie by himself or, be a frequent character in the series, but him showing up once in a while or even referencing, a blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen would be fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about, some sort of retired surgeon from, goddamn, can't remember where he's, Greenwich Village, I think. Again, I'm referencing things that nobody but me knows, but I think there's a lot of potential for, the Marvel fandom that I really want to explore. There's a lot of potential for character growth. There's a lot of potential for story growth. And obviously there's a lot of potential to tie into the movies, which are hugely popular. And that's part of what fascinates me about the entire Avengers Marvel movie franchise, and this tying into that is that they've opened up the idea of the movies, even though they're standalone movies, it's a universe.
Mm-hmm.
And as a universe, there's things that connect. There's, layers and nuance to this, and we can, stuff like Roxxon oil showing up in Iron Man 3. They don't even tell you what that is. It's just totally a thing that if you know the Marvel Universe, you're like, I know Roxxon, I know AIM, I know all these things that, they reference and they bring up, and you can see these characters kind of creep up. Like, one of the things I really wanted them to do when I saw the trailer for the pilot the first time was when I saw Gunn, the hero of the story, J. Michael Richard. I think that's his name. If I'm screwing that up, please someone correct me. When I saw him show up, he's black bald man who punches into a wall. I'm thinking, oh my God, they're doing Luke Cage.
Oh.
And that's just so awesome because I don't think he's X-Men can't cross over because they're owned by a different company right now. However, they firmly established. No, the world is exactly the same. They live in the same universe, lore. In fact, many X-Men are now Avengers.
But one thing this would be, like, for somebody like me who doesn't read Marvel Comics, right, and has never really read Marvel Comics except for that one Spider-Man PSA comic, I think.
I should lend you Ultimate Spider-Man because I think you'd enjoy it.
Maybe.
Plus, it might actually get you to like Spider-Man.
Never! But one thing that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is good for is kind of introducing an audience who isn't familiar with the comics and kind of building that, because it's what it's doing. It's building this universe,
mm-hmm.
and it's building a very comic book universe, and it's getting people invested in that.
And that's one of my favorite things about this, is the amount of people who saw Avengers
yeah.
and became not just fans of the movie, but actually went out and bought comics and actually started looking up, or J. August Richards, I'm sorry.
But it's like I'm looking at each episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now, almost like a different issue of a comic book, right? And if we can do that, that'd be amazing.
And I'm hoping they do it in arcs like that too, where like a comic book storyline will go on for 6 or 12 issues, and you get an entire story arc over a year. I would like to see them develop a plot line that goes, from the second episode on to the final episode, not just be a CSI series where it's, okay, this is the situation we face this week, and I don't want it to be procedural.
Yeah.
I'd like it to be about the characters. I'd like it to be about a story and about the world. And I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, that's not Joss's style. That's not Marvel's style. And clearly the idea is to tie it in and to make it, another chapter in this universe. And I love that. I love it so much.
But I'm gonna need some less block. Like, even the May character, I just... it was sort of like, okay, she's retired and stuff, but again, she didn't have too much... Nobody really got a whole lot of development in that first episode, I know it's a first episode.
Well, no, I think they were focusing their development on Skye. Because I think she got much more development, and clearly you needed to develop the... But
the one thing with her, too, is that I wasn't quite buying her sudden, because she was, anti-S.H.I.E.L.D. all over, and she changed hands pretty quickly.
I think because she sees the potential to... I think she's after information, and she's after knowing the truth, and she's seeing that S.H.I.E.L.D. and Coulson are clearly not...
Good
night, Sin. Are clearly not as in the dark about things. I mean, there's an entire great scene where, in order to get her trust, he pulls out the truth serum that you think they're going to inject her with, but they inject the other agent with, and sit her down with him to, get her to kind of interrogate it. And unfortunately, it's kind of ruined by, hey, look at my boobs! Right. These are obviously under your power. You don't need to sexualize yourself to... But anyways, I thought that was a great scene. I think there's great potential for them to kind of expand these characters. And I want to see where they go. I want to see where Skye goes. I want to see what her involvement is. And I think she's got a great kind of shtick where she's not necessarily an agent, but she's kind of stepping into this universe. And I think May is going to take a little while for people to gravitate towards, but there's potential for her to be a cool badass. And there's clearly history there, but we don't know what it is. There's clearly history with Coulson that we haven't explored yet.
Yeah.
And I really want more of the two techs because, my God, are they lovely.
They're fun. They're a lot of fun. So we're kind of reaching time here. We should probably wrap up. So that's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. I'm not a big comic book fan, so I was walking into it as... sort of someone who doesn't know a whole lot about the Marvel Universe. And
I am a big fan, but I'm also not, afraid of criticizing something.
Yeah.
But I still see... I still think it's a good show, so I think it's worth checking out.
It's sort of like, I'll be interested to see where it goes. I hope it goes somewhere. I hope... Joss Whedon does seem to have a good track record, but Joss Whedon also has a track record of having bad first seasons. Generally.
He's also got an unfortunate situation of long-term plots that he kind of bungles too. But,
we'll see.
I have a feeling Joss is not going to be as involved with this as everybody's expecting to. I think it's mostly his brother and his sister-in-law who are kind of running things. Joss is mostly just kind of, because he directed the movie and because he's such a big TV guy, he's kind of put his name on it. But I have a feeling that, give it a couple episodes, the show's going to start standing on its own. It's a shame it didn't in this pilot. But I think they had a lot of ground to cover, and they were trying to do too many things at once. And not succeeding at it. However, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just not as cohesive as I would like it to be, and I think, I'm willing to give it the chance to move forward. So.
Yeah. Well, all right. I think it's time to wrap up.
Yep. So once again, if you guys, let people know about us, please. Tell your friends, if you're on different fan sites or something and there's an episode that we've done that corresponds to that fan site, tell people, let them know. Let them know that there's a show coming up that, they might be interested in, or just let people know because we'd like to broaden our audience. We'd like to get more fans.
In a chair, watch about some videos.
And remember, you can always subscribe to us on YouTube. All of our episodes go there every week. Unfortunately, we've kind of bungled that, but I'm trying to get them up properly on our main page. We are live every Sunday at 8 p.m. Weeks that we aren't, we'll let you guys know ahead of time if we aren't.
I think we can already safely say that Canadian Thanksgiving is kind of out.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
that one.
I'm going to be out of town.
Which I think is like 2 weeks.
2 weeks, not this coming Sunday, but the next Sunday. Yeah.
And then there's not going to be all three of us for a little while, but you guys know that. Yeah.
I'm glad you could make it too, Christy. Christy was so glad she could make it tonight. Yay!
So let people know where we are. You can find us on. You can like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. We give you guys updates on that stuff. I'm trying to get the news going again on those. I've been a little behind on things, but when interesting stories come up, I'm trying to put them out. I'm going to start putting out more news again as soon as things calm down for me. It's a bit kind of crazy with work. So, subscribe to all those things because I noticed that there's a lot of people who aren't necessarily subscribed to us who do follow us but aren't necessarily, we do have, unfortunately, not that many people subscribe to us on YouTube. But, it lets you, I know you guys join us every Sunday, but you can check out old episodes. And it just helps us out to have
like us on Facebook, boosted. Subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Twitter. We are there, and we will respond to any questions you have. It is 3 Geeks in a Pod. That is the number 3. And we will see you next week, I guess. So, I'm not Ja-Mez.
I'm not Manda and Errol's not here.
Not even here.
We'll see him soon. So.
And by the way, he's doing well. He's kind of hilarious to watch him go upstairs because he has to get on all fours and crawl his way up. But
I still imagine the entire thing like my comic.
yeah, pretty much like that.
What could go wrong?
Okay. Thanks, Jensen, for following us. All right.
Yay.
See you next week, guys.
Good night, guys.
Night. Oh no! How do I stop this thing?